Bon après-midi. We're going to try to fix that little echoing for a moment. My fault. I'll start again. Bon après-midi à tous et bienvenue à cette rencontre du comité de dérogation pour la Ville d'Ottawa. Welcome everyone to this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Ottawa. We are Panel 1, the urban area, and we're a quasi-judicial tribunal that holds hearings to consider Planning Act applications and mainly minor variances and consents to sever, but we do hear permissions and a few others. So we are back to being in person. That said, it is possible to of course, participate remotely, and all you need to really do, if either whether you want to present or you want to you're a member of the public and you want to participate remotely, it's all possible just through reaching out to our committee staff. We are being live streamed on YouTube, and the video and the agenda are archived on a city's website after the meeting, and you can have a look at it if ever you need to go back. My name is Anne Tremblay, and I will be chairing today's hearings. With me today are on my left, Member Kucklicken, on my right, Member Lecueilly, and Member Blatherwick. So in terms of the procedure, there was an agenda at the beginning. Again, the agendas are always just in the order of the applications that are received. So we have a chance to, and some discretion to move those around, which we will be doing today. Note that the panel members have reviewed all of the material that's come in. So before we get to this hearing, we've received all of the information. We've had a chance to look at it, and we also pre-meet so that we have an opportunity to hear any last-minute information and to ensure that we understand the nature of the application clearly. So with that, then, what we really want to hear from during these hearings is from the applicant, of course, but we also want to hear from anyone who hasn't had a chance and wants to provide comments on a particular application, whether you're in favor or you're in opposition. So as part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant is required to post a sign on the property that's being heard, and also to confirm in writing that they have put that sign up for the requisite amount of time. And if we don't have that as a paper copy or a digital copy, then we need to swear or affirm that, in fact, that sign has been posted for the time required. Otherwise, we have to postpone hearing on that application. So I believe all of our stat decks are in, and I get a confirmation, yes, that's the case. So the way we proceed is that the panel may ask for a presentation of an application. Then what we typically do is we then ask questions either from the applicant or from staff to get further clarification. Once we've done all that, we open it up to the public portion of the hearing. I do have a speakers list. So I typically start with the speakers list, and then I'll open it up to anyone else who might have an interest in the application. When you address us, if you're on my list, then as long as you give me your name, we do have your municipal address. But if you're not on my list, then I need you to give me your first and last name and your municipal address. And I may need you to actually spell out your last name in some cases. So once we've heard from everyone, we give we deliberate, and then we have a chance to give the applicant an opportunity to respond to any of the issues or concerns that may have been raised. And from there, then we close the hearing. And what we can do is either, of course, approve an application, or we can refuse an application, or we can reserve on an application. And what a reserve application means, that typically we would like more time as a panel to discuss all of the evidence that's been brought forward on an application. And at that point, we make a decision. All that happens on the same day. So nobody goes home without making a decision on all the applications that were before us. In all cases, and within 10 days, the Committee of Adjustment does send a official written decision and the reasons to all parties and participants and anyone who's requested a copy of the decision. So with that, then we can go to sort of our business components. We do have some minutes of January 15th to confirm, looking to members of the panel, anyone issues, no issues. So I think we can then, we can announce that we are confirming those minutes of January 15th without any further changes. So that's done. Then we have declarations of conflict of interest. Is there anyone on the panel who has a conflict with any of the applications on our panel or on the other two panels from yesterday? Member Keklikan, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will recuse myself from item 3 and 4. I think they're a combined item. They're in my community and I want to avoid any perception of conflict. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Member Keklikan. So with that, then, if there's no other declarations of conflict of interest, we're going to go to adjournments. We have 2 adjournments for today. Application number 2 for 166 McGillivray Street, looking for Agent Nahal. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. So you're aware that there is a request for adjournment?
Yes, we made the request, Chair.
All right, can you just very briefly in a sentence or two tell us what the reasons are?
Yes, a new architect was retained. They have prepared a draft site plan, but we still need time for them to finalize the site plan, elevations, and floor plans. So we'd like some time for the committee and the public, as well as ourselves, to review the new plans and then adjourn to the March 5th date if possible.
All right, so I think before I think I'm going to ask the committee, any questions first on the adjournment? Yes, Member Blatherwick, go ahead, please.
I'm looking at your application. And I note that this is an R4UD zone for both properties, 166 McGillivray included. I'm just wondering, the performance standard for front yard fixtures in the R4UD zone states front yard and corner side yard must be equipped with solid permanent fixtures sufficient to prevent motor vehicle parking. And you have said that you have met that requirement by putting 2 trees in the front yard. Quite frankly, those are not solid permanent fixtures. So I'm just wondering if the revised site plan is going to show what is a required performance standard in there, or whether or not you're going to apply for another minor variance to exempt yourself from that requirement.
Yes, so we had proposed a tree in the front yard of 166 McGillivray. My understanding is that a tree is a permitted fixture to prevent parking in the front yard. I've had this requested of me from forestry on previous files where they've asked us to provide a tree in order to comply with this provision, and further, just in general, they request trees. We didn't get this request from forestry. Instead, this was something that I preemptively the team opted to provide a tree because they felt this would be beneficial and also comply with this performance standard.
But trees are not permanent fixtures. Trees die. Trees can get uprooted. This zoning provision is in place to stop cars from parking in a front yard. How are you going to put a tree on the front yard and prevent this from happening?
I can certainly look into that, Member Blatherwick, and get back to you. My understanding was that a tree was considered a sufficient permanent fixture. So we would have to look into that further.
I'd suggest you do. I mean, quite frankly, put as many trees as you want in that front yard, but if you need permanent fix, I mean, that's a very specific performance standard in the zoning bylaw, and it's there for a reason in the R4 zone, as you well know. So we'll see you in March. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Member Blatherwick, did you want any clarification on that from planning? Because we do want to be sure that we identify whether or not a minor variance is required, because if it is, then of course we're into having to recirculate it. So,
okay, if they'd like to weigh in, that's fine.
Ms. Horn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the provision that's being referenced right now does specifically include trees. So the wording is, such parking exclusion fixtures may include bicycle racks, benches, bollards, ornamental fences or garden walls, raised planters, trees, wheelchair lifting devices, and wheelchair lifting devices or some combination thereof. So trees are included.
The department's all right with trees being planted, understanding that this is not going to allow front yard parking to take place.
Yes, we are supportive of allowing trees. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, okay, so that means no additional minor variance, if I understand that correctly. Okay. All right. Oh, Member Kilcolligan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for planning staff, if I may. Is this property or within what's called the Rideau Canal Special District? That's related to the World Heritage Site along it's the 6-kilometer area in Ottawa that is a World Heritage Site.
Thank you, Member Kilcolligan. Do you mind if I take a moment just to check my notes?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Member Kilcolligan, would you also like to hear from the applicant perhaps on that too?
Well, in the meantime, sure, if I may. If it is, assuming that it is in a special district, as you know, I mean, the Rideau Canal is a internationally recognized, worldwide recognized jewel in our capital. And the intention of the special district, if it is within this area, is to preserve and enhance the cultural heritage, character, and experiential quality of that area. So pending the comment from planning staff, I wonder if you are this is going to be adjourned, if you can come back with some description of how the proposal will support the special district principles and goals.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
So thank you for the question, Member Kilcolligan. So my understanding was that 441 Echo, it looks like as though it is in the special district. However, the special district, to my understanding, does not extend beyond 441 Echo. So the only works proposed at 441 Echo are an expansion of the parking lot, so an increase in the asphalt. However, that is to the rear. I think it's also worth noting that when I conducted a site visit, that the apartment building looks directly at the Flora footbridge pillars. The footings for the bridge are directly across from it. So the view from the apartment building to the Rideau Canal is obscured, and indeed the reverse is also perhaps true from many angles. So my conclusion in my planning rationale was that the consent affects 441 Echo. However, the minor variance obviously does not. And the proposed development would not be within view of the canal. And it would also not have any impact on the canal's heritage status because the existing apartment building at 441 Echo is also a 3.5-story building. So it would effectively block the view of the proposed development at 166 McGillivray, if not entirely, perhaps most entirely. You wouldn't really be able to perceive the proposed development from the canal or from the active transportation path alongside the canal, on either side really, due to the building and as well the footbridge blocking the view. And the policies in the official plan also make reference to ensuring that the properties, so they reference the first row of properties along the Rideau Canal, and a lot of it speaks to ensuring that the development is respectful of the Rideau Canal and preserving its heritage status. However, since that building is already existing, I didn't feel that it would have any impact that it doesn't already have on the canal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kilcolligan. So I can confirm that 166 McGillivray is just outside the area of the special district.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, any further questions on this? All right, so Ms. Halal, just want to note one thing before we go to a vote on, we do have to hear from the public as well on the adjournment, but there is an awful lot of opposition to this file. I don't know what kind of outreach or consultation was undertaken as part of your background work. I would suggest that that you take some time to do that before we hear from you again. It seems that there's a number of concerns that are worthy of hearing out and to seeing whether or not there's an opportunity to compromise in any way. That's of course what the committee always wants to see, is that there's been work with the neighborhood to ensure compatibility and fit. So with that, then I'm going to leave that there. So committee, my inclination is a sine die adjournment. Anyone think otherwise? No, I think there's enough time that's required at this point to get the revised plans and to do that consultation, and the consultation may lead to more. So with that, then, before we get there, is there anyone here today or online that would like to speak to the adjournment sine die? All right, with that then, members of the committee, all those, well, and so I'm going to give you a chance though, Ms. Nahal, any issues with the sine die adjournment at this point?
We would prefer to adjourn to a specific date just to ensure we're on the agenda. I am in receipt of the draft site plan already. So we do anticipate we'll have the revised architectural materials shortly. For that reason, we would prefer to adjourn to a date. If March 5th is not preferred, a later date in March might be acceptable, but we would rather not adjourn sine die if possible, just to ensure that we can remain on the committee agenda while giving us time to review ourselves and the public, time to review the materials.
All right, so what I'm seeing is March 19th. That gives you a month. So our expectation, Ms. Nahal, though, would be that you come back with a summary of the consultation that's been undertaken pursuant to the amount of opposition that you have received. Members of the panel, any issues with going to a March 19th? Yeah, looking to our Secretary Treasurer here. How are we for an agenda? Are we okay for that agenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we can accommodate the applications on the March 19th agenda. However, I would just note that there would be no circulation of the materials from committee staff. We would be looking at April if the expectation is that anything would be recirculated. And of course, we would recommend sine die in that case. So just clarifying that it would be incumbent on the applicant to provide updated plans to all interested parties.
Okay, thank you for that. And that's my one worry, Ms. Nahal, to be honest with you, with going to a date, is you may actually be doing yourself a disservice, because you have a lot of consultation to undertake, and my sense is that there's a risk that, of course, further changes will be required. And if that's the case, you're coming back on the 19th only to adjourn again. So that's, sine die protects against all that, and it doesn't prevent you from coming back on the 19th of March if you're ready, but it certainly gives you that flexibility. Are you still intent on getting the March 19th date?
Let me confirm with my colleague. Yeah, we are willing to adjourn to March 19 if required. We can adjourn again, but we are optimistic that we can circulate the materials as required and see through the process as necessary to ensure that we can make sure that everyone is aware of the changes that are being brought forward.
Not just aware of the changes, Ms. Nahal. I want a discussion because this is unusual. This is a lot of opposition, right? So that means there's dialogue that has to happen with the neighbors on this. So if you're telling me that you're pretty sure you're not going to need to revise the plans further based on that discussion, then we're okay, but, all right. Okay, so with that then, members of the panel, are those all in favor of March 19th adjournment? All right, so it's unanimous. Ms. Nahal, we'll see you in a month.
Thank you, Chair and Committee.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the next application that's up for adjournment is number 848 Nelson, looking for Agent Jacobs. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, Mr. Jacobs, you're aware that there is an adjournment request for this application?
Yes, I am. I've been in discussions with Ms. Horn, the planner, and I received the comments indicating that they would like an adjournment. They see the potential for an additional variance relative to section 60, and I concur with that assessment. So we will need to draft a further covering letter to include that in the application and go through with the formal notice or recirculation of the application as a result.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jacobs. So we're looking at an adjournment sine die. Any issues with that?
Well, I always prefer to have a date, but I can't guarantee that we would have all the materials and follow-up discussion with staff on that in a time that I can reasonably foresee. So I would think we have revised plans that I'm ready to share with the planner, but I would like some time for back and forth on that before we get before you to make sure that we've got an application that's fully put together.
All right, so I'm hearing an okay on the sine die, I think.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. All right, questions from the panel on the adjournment request? All right, seeing none, I'm going to do a call out. Anyone in the audience or online like to speak to this request for adjournment sine die? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward, so I think we can go to a vote unless, Mr. Jacobs, you have anything else to add?
Not at this point. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. So members of the panel, all those in favor of adjournment sine die? Okay, for the record, the application is adjourned. So thank you, Mr. Jacobs, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, that takes us to the unopposed applications. I'm going to do this rather than all at once. I'm going to do this in sort of 3 batches. So starting with application number 1, and I don't need to see the agent come forward on this. I just need to know whether or not there's anyone in the audience here or at home or virtually that would have any issues with the application for minor variance at 511 Highcroft Avenue. Anyone? All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward, so with that, we can go to a vote. Members of the panel, all those in favor? All right, Member Blatherwick? Okay, so with that then, that application is approved. Then I'm going to go to applications 5 and 6 for 7880 Nelson Street and 253 York Street. Again, not looking at any, don't need the agent, no, don't need a presentation on this. Just going to do a general call out. Is there anyone in the audience here today or online who would like to speak to this application? 2 applications, in fact. Seeing none, then we can go to a vote. Members of the panel, all those in favor of applications number 5 and 6 being 7880 Nelson Street and 253 York Street. All right, with that, the approval is unanimous. So those 2 applications are done. And then we're going to go to 3 and 4, understanding that we do have a conflict of interest with Member Keklikan. This is for applications at 68 Sweetland Avenue and 146 Osgoode Street. Again, we don't need to hear from the agents on this. It's an unopposed application. Is there anyone in the audience today or online who would like to speak to either one of those applications? Okay, seeing none, then with the remaining members of the committee, all those in favor? Okay, so for the record, the approval is unanimous. So that takes us to the end of our unopposed applications. So we're left with one item on the agenda, which is for 120 Queen Street. And I'm looking for Agent Campanelli. Good afternoon. Yeah, we can't hear you. You're on mute. So if you could, I'm going to need you both to introduce yourselves, please.
Yep, can you hear us now?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Hi, my name is Christian Campanelli. I'm the president and owner of Evo Space Developments. And this is Mobina Zogart. She's our project coordinator.
All right, thank you for that. So we're going to ask for a presentation from you today on the application. Are you ready to proceed?
Absolutely.
Do you have a PowerPoint?
We do.
All right, thank you.
First of all, very excited to be here today to show you our presentation. Please go to the next slide. So we're the authorized representative of company's Evo Space Developments. Next slide. And I just want to give a background on our 3 core values. Our first focus is healthy. We're focused on priority is on well-being of the residents. Next slide. Efficiency. We value high effective building envelopes with design that minimize waste for residents. And third one, communities, is we prioritize enhancing the environments we choose to invest in. Next slide, please. Our current project we have at 845 Champlain. It's a 10-unit stack townhome development. We got zoning in 2023 and we changed it to R4. Please press the next button.
Yeah, so Mr. Campanelli, is it possible to skip forward to
Yeah.
the application before the committee?
Yeah. So this, if you click the next slide, this is what the building looks like. We kept the hedges around the side there. Next slide. The proposal, we're going to be very brief because you have all the information. Next slide. So this is the survey. It has a 1-story building on it, bungalow, wartime home. Next slide. We're proposing 3 townhomes of equal width. Next slide. This is a concept elevations of what it could look like. Next slide. Next slide. This is the tree information report. So from the application, we've been provided with a list of 8 conditions for approval of this application. And we're in agreement with 6 of these conditions. The only issues we have is with conditions 3 and 4, where the forestry department are trying to save tree number 1 in the front yard because it's outside of the as of right building envelope and requirements to proceed additional reports and plans. So condition 3 requires us to have a revised grading servicing plan to change the building driveway, the servicing, and the grading to reduce excavation within the critical root zones. It also requests a revised tree information report. And we can't comply with number 3 for 3 main reasons. So one of which is right now the tree is located right, you notice in the northwest corner, right in where the porch is currently located. And to adjust the building footprint would result in substantial loss in square footage, and it generate an unattractive building design where the first unit doesn't match the other 2 units. Also, because the driveway is in the critical root zone, the forestry department has asked us if we could remove the driveway to save the tree. And we conducted an analysis. We can't do this we can't remove the driveway and provide no parking for the townhome. The market conditions just wouldn't allow, the projections for revenues are far lower than the costs if we were to do this. The other 2 items is the longevity of the building for foundation issues and also branches. But most importantly, I believe, is the construction issues that we would face with the tree. We would require at least 12 feet clearance to bring safely site equipment in between the building and the tree. And this is already a tricky site because there's high power lines right on the lot line, and we've already had issues on other sites where where our subcontractors had hit them. It's going to cause a lot of complications for us to get through, even with where it is right now. So the access to build becomes a big problem. And to be clear, like with this condition number 3, we would abandon the project if it's approved by council. Condition 4 asks for tree planting plan and have a new 1 tree per lot. The tree planting plan is an onerous for a small development on a tight budget. I've applied for zoning changes before, and this is a new one for me to deal with. But I certainly would like to keep 1 tree per lot. But I would like to highlight to council that we already are keeping one of the trees in the back. And if you could just hit the next slide, I'll show you how the tree impact. That's the tree right now on the front lot line. Our proximity to our building permit, so our porch would be right where the tree is practically. For us to be able to do that safely, it was not something that we can do. So in summary, if we go to the next slide, this is the severance application, part 1, 2, and 3. We have a part 4 that allows for an easement to get into the rear yard of part 2. So if someone wanted to bring their lawnmower to their backyard, they can do that. And so we would like to ask the committee to approve this application with the removal of conditions 3 and 4. That's hit the next slide, please. And that's it for us. Thank you. And you have our contact information. You're welcome to see us on our website.
So, Mr. Campanelli, any chance that you have any contextual evidence to show how the proposal relates to surrounding developments?
Could you elaborate on what you mean by contextual evidence?
All right, so what you've got is you're proposing 3 new units in place of an existing unit. We don't have any sense from your evidence what the remaining streetscape looks like. So how does this proposal fit in comparison to the neighbors next door, behind, across the street? Do you have any of that evidence for us?
Yeah, great question. So, and our application right now, right next to it, 126 Queen Mary is a new construction single-family home that's currently under construction. And across the street, there's a 4-story low-rise apartment building. So there's already substantial intensification occurring within the community.
Can you give me multiple addresses on that then, Mr. Campanelli? So if so where is that new the apartment building across the street that you're talking to me about? What address is that?
So it's a new house that's beside us at the 126 Queen Mary. The apartment building, I'm not exactly sure on what year it was built. So let me just pull it up here for you.
Yeah, this is the kind of planning evidence, Mr. Campanelli, that we look to. Because, you know, we see that it's a single family house. We're looking at the remainder of the street there's a little bit of variation, but how it actually relates to the neighbors and across the street and behind is the kind of thing that we also like to see as part of the planning evidence to ensure compatibility.
100%, and my apologies, Chair. This information was provided in our application. It's just I did not go over much detail in our presentation. I figured I'd focus our attention on items that were not present in our application. But what I'll do is I have a screenshot of the building across the street. Am I able to throw this in the chat or?
Actually,
uh,
so Mr.
the act-
Campanelli, if you've submitted then to the staff that contextual information, we can ask them to bring it up. We don't
Okay.
need a screenshot. So can you tell us what the name of that plan might have been that you submitted for contextual information?
The address is 123 Queen Mary. I don't have any actual visuals of it. It's just mentioned descriptively in my submission.
Okay, so you don't then have a graphic that shows us the surrounding land use. Is that correct?
Of this particular story, no, we don't, but it's the neighbors next door to it that we do.
All right. In that case, we're going to move on. All right. Any questions from the remainder of the panel for Mr. Campanelli? I do have more that I can go on. Let me go on for a bit then. And if any other panel members have other questions, then they'll come forward. I guess what I'm looking for at this point then would be, all right, so we have a new planner. I'm going to get this wrong, but is it Karen? Ms. Karen?
Yeah, that's correct, Madam Chair.
Please tell me how to pronounce your name because I wasn't sure if it's Jeku and Karen, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
So it's actually a hyphenated name?
it's not hyphenated, but it's just two names.
It's two names. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I guess what I'm looking for then is, there's two conditions that are being applied, which are very standard conditions that we've seen in the past. And I think are in keeping with the policies of the official plan on some of this. So was there discussions with forestry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I did have some discussions with forestry, and I believe Mr. Alvarez Barkham is online.
Okay, Mr. Alvarez. Okay. Hello, how are you?
Well, how are you?
Very well, thank you. So need your input on the consultation that's been up to date with Mr. Campanelli, and need sort of your insight on, whether or not conditions 3 and 4 are something that we can live without, or whether or not they need to remain.
Happy to clarify. Thanks for the question. I have discussed with Mr. Campanelli the possibility of retaining tree number 1. As he sort of mentioned, tree number 1 is outside the as of right building footprint and a healthy tree, so should be considered a priority for retention. However, due to the requirement or desire to provide parking in the front or the driveways, they can't retain the tree. So condition 3 has actually been revised. Basically, the language is sort of general to catch multiple different possibilities or scenarios. However, in this case, what we're looking for is the grading plan and servicing plan to show that they can actually provide sufficient soil volume to plant the new trees that they're proposing in the front yard. So we're just making sure we want to be able to see that and see that there's going to be unobstructed soil. And then condition number 4 is a standard condition that we request whenever they're sort of applying to remove trees and are going to need to provide replacement trees. So that will be required through the building, through the tree permit anyways. So in this case, it's just to see that evidence through their application.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alvarez Barkham. Anyone on the panel have further questions about the conditions 3 and 4? All right, so I guess I'm going to look to you, going back to Ms. Jeku and Karen. And so if we were to, so right now there's no concerns, but that's given compliance to sort of official plan policies and city policies about trees and, you know, this, like I said, this is fairly standard. If we were to remove those, would the city's position change on this, and would forestry's position change on whether or not they'd have concerns?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I take a moment?
Absolutely, go ahead. And Mr. Alvarez Barkham, I think I'm asking you the same question as well. If we were to remove those, would forestry now have concerns with the application?
We,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
that's difficult. I mean, my concern around the removal of tree number 1 sort of remains regardless of whether the condition is there or not. However, the condition is there to ensure that we can mitigate the loss of tree number 1.
All right, okay, good answer. Okay, I think I understand your position. Back to you then, Ms. Jeku and Karam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe staff will still have no planning concerns because the proposal meets the zoning bylaw and is in line with the official plan policies for densification. So, yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, questions from the committee? Any follow-on questions on any of this? Because we have to have a discussion about it. So, all right, so based on Mr. Alvarez Barkham's presentations to us, I would be inclined, but I need to hear from the members of the panel, I'd be inclined to keep conditions number 3 and 4. And as you know, there's always an opportunity to negotiate the implementation of some of these conditions going forward, even after approval of them. So looking for some thoughts. Who, you know, would anyone on the panel be opposed to retaining them? Member Blatherwick?
Frankly, Madam Chair, those conditions are there for a very good reason, so I think we should keep them.
All right, thank you. Member Lukey?
I concur, Madam Chair.
Perfect. Member Keklikan, would you like to weigh in?
No, I agree as well. I think there's a reason for them, and the policies of the tree canopy and so on. So I think we should retain those.
All right, okay. So Mr. Campanelli, I think you've heard the discussion. It looks like we're not going to be deleting conditions number 3 and number 4. You're welcome to continue to have discussions with forestry about what the intent is and how you might meet the spirit of those conditions. All right, anything else, Mr. Campanelli, that you wanted to chat with us about?
Well, it seems like this is a conversation now of the condition is requiring us to revise the grading and servicing plan to try it. I just want to make sure I understand this very clearly. So the condition 3 requests a revised grading and servicing plan to change the building driveway, servicing and grading to reduce excavation within the critical root zones. It also requests a revised tree information report. So we have to provide a new tree information report, is that correct?
I believe so, based on this. And tree information reports, Mr. Campanelli, are just standard today for any application for intensification.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right, so I think what we heard from Mr. Alvarez Barkham, and you can correct me if I'm misquoting here, the intent of that condition truly is to ensure that the compensation trees that would be provided on the property have sufficient soil capacity, so depth and area, I believe, to be able to, in fact, carry a tree planting to its full maturity. Is that about right, Mr. Alvarez Barkham?
Yes, and just around the wording, it's a little bit specific, but there is an and/or provision in that condition. So to ensure that those the site grading and design of the building are able to provide sufficient soil volume to the plant new trees. So that's more specifically why that condition is there.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Campanelli. Does that help?
I just had a question, Chair. it was mentioned by the forester that number 3 has since been amended. I wanted to just clarify what the amendment was, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
through
ahead.
you, through you, Madam Chair. So that was behind the scenes. Like, my original condition was a slightly different one, looking to change the design of the building to allow retention of the tree. However, I applied this condition, which is more specifically about the soil volumes for the new trees.
Okay, I think the panel understands that. Mr. Campanelli, it looks like you've been given more flexibility than the usual condition.
And at what point am I going to discover if tree number 1 will be required to be retained?
I don't see the requirement to retain that. Mr. Alvarez Barkham, can you shed light?
Absolutely. We've already discussed, Mr. Campanelli and I, the possibility of retaining tree number 1, and he's sort of made it clear that the elements that are impacting tree number 1 are non-optional for him. So we're not going to force you to retain the tree because it wouldn't be feasible with the project that you're proposing.
Okay, no further questions for me, Chair.
All right, perfect. Members of the panel, any other questions regarding this application? Whether it has to do with any of the variances specifically? No? All right. Okay, and Ms. Jeku and Karen, can you just confirm to me, though, that you're satisfied that the reductions in I think it's the rear yard setback and rear yard area are sufficient to meet the needs of the residents over time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff are satisfied with the requested variances. And
All right, thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions then from the panel members, I'm going to go to the public portion of this application. And I don't have anyone on my speakers list. Is there anyone? Well, we do have one person left in the audience. Anybody in the audience or online like to speak to this application, whether for or against? Now's your chance. All right, I'm not seeing anybody come forward. So with that then, Mr. Campanelli, giving you 2 minutes to recap.
You'd like me to recap?
Was there anything you would like to conclude with? And this is your opportunity for any final comments.
Before the motion is made to approve or not approve.
Correct.
Well, if it's not a requirement to retain the tree, then I think we're in a decent position. The other items I disagree with, but I respect the council's opinion. That's all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Campanelli. Then with that, I think it's safe to say that we're going to reserve on this application. So that means that we're going to, once we've adjourned this hearing, we're going to regroup and chat a little longer about your application and then make a decision. You will get the written decision within 10 days. Any questions?
Oh, okay. I thought maybe I misheard you earlier. You mentioned about decisions being made that you guys would be meeting today, and nothing would be that the decisions would be made today. That's what I thought.
It will be. It's just not.
Okay.
We're going to deliberate outside of this hearing context to continue our discussions on your application, and then we'll make a decision. And but before we leave today, so you will get your decision within the 10 days, the written decision.
Okay, so I just won't know about it until you provide the written or.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right. Well, if there's nothing further on this application, that pretty much concludes our agenda. And if there's no other business, then we can deem this hearing in general to be adjourned. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.